Hello, everyone who's joined us today for this week's Silver CY Cracker Barrel. While we're waiting for a few more people to hop on into the call, we're going to go over just who we are and some leadership positions that we've held. My name is Max Fenner. I've worked at camp this is my 6th year. I've worked in the Nature Center as Assistant Nature Director and the Nature Director, and this year I'm the Assistant Camp Director of 3 Point.
My name is Jonathan DeLulio. I am the Food Services Director here at Yawgoo Scout Reservation. This is my 4th year holding this position. Previously, I have worked as the cook and baker, also as a kitchen manager in the Sandy Beach kitchen. But I have been working here at Yawgoo Scout Reservation for 9 years now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandria Wells. I started working at Camp Yawgoo in 2018. I started in Camp 3 Point as the office manager, and last year as well as this year, I'm serving Yawgoo as the business manager.
Hey everyone, I'm Nolan. So this is my 3rd year on staff. I spent the last 2 years at Eagle Badge. This year I was going to be a PC down in 3 Point. And yeah.
Awesome. So with that, we're going to head on into our Silver CY Cracker Barrel. John, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Max. So we're going to start off with defining what type of leadership we're going to be discussing today, and that is servant leadership. It's a leader who prioritizes the needs of others, and they find success and power in the growth of others. So this is a lot more personal style of leadership that we're going to be talking about. And there's just a couple points that make sense to talk about when talking about servant leadership, such as empowerment, like assisting others in realizing their full potential. That's one of the biggest qualities in this type of leadership is empowerment. Being able to assist, being able to help others realize their full potential and their possibilities and how they're able to lead. Also, accountability, holding people responsible for their actions, whether they're doing a good job, whether they're doing a bad job. It's important to hold people accountable. This one also has a standing back approach. So being able to follow and watch the people that we're trying to assist and guide, standing back and watching them take the lead on it for a little bit, watching them to do their work and see how they'll be leading. Authenticity is a really important key trait in servant leadership. It's true and genuine to oneself professionally, publicly, and privately even. It's really being true to who you are, and that's a great quality of servant leadership. Courage is also really important in this because you need to embrace innovation and taking risks and going in a little bit of a different direction. If it's a personal style of leadership, just like servant leadership, we want to be a little bit more personal and get to know people. Everyone has their own different style of leading and how they try and approach things. So it's really important to take the courage to get to know that, embrace that innovation, and take the risk to try something different. And the interpersonal acceptance. Like I said, if everybody has their own different approach, so it's really important to understand the different perspectives, the different experiences people may have had in order to lead better. And the last thing that I want to mention is stewardship. So stewardship, it practices services and takes responsibility of the larger institution or society. So it's really thinking about the bigger picture here, rather than just focusing on one little thing. It's really thinking about the larger institution and what's better for the group as a whole or the organization as a whole. So with that, we're going to move on to some examples of servant leadership.
So some examples of servant leadership includes, a famous example would be someone like Dr. Martin Luther King, how his involvement in the civil rights movement was was a personal thing. He didn't just stand from the sidelines and make speeches and tell people to do things. He very much was in there with the people that supported him, and he supported them as well, taking care of them in their times of need, as well as them taking care of him. Some more kind of common examples here at camp, while we set up each week for new troops arriving, we do a thing called crews, where we will move and set up tents depending on how many people are moving in or out of a site between weeks. In order to do this, we only have such a limited amount of time to do everything. So early in the summer, we have crew chiefs, and these crew chiefs tend to be people like PCs, camp directors, assistant camp directors, and they teach staff of all ages and all kind of skill how to together set up a tent, move a tent platform safely and effectively. But we don't do that as crew chiefs by standing back and telling them what to do. It's very personal. It's you're in there showing staff how to tie knots, how to move things safely and correctly, teaching them while you're getting the job done in the beginning. And as the summer progresses, by the time we have to end up and take down Yago Sky Reservation, we're pretty much operating on like full steam, and there's hardly any need to like reiterate those points that we talked about in the beginning. And this is very important and melds into servant leadership very well, because with servant leadership, as John previously described, you have a lot of interpersonal connection with the people you're working with, and you also give each member accountability, how each member has a job to do, and at that point everyone knows how to do each job. So that's an example. Another example could be something such as if you're teaching someone a skill, whether it's a scout skill or a daily skill. If you follow the EDGE method, servant leadership tends to slide in underneath the guiding principle of the EDGE method, how you've already explained and demonstrated the skill to the other person, but now you are there helping them physically do it themselves, but not being too much contact, letting them take some responsibility and accountability for their end of the learning process as well. So with that, we're going to transition over to Alexandria, and she's going to describe some cons of this leadership style.
So cons of servant leadership include things like it takes longer to make a decision when you are managing a staff and you only have 2 people to account for. Servant leadership isn't necessarily an easy decision making because you're making a decision for all 3 of you. But in certain areas such as campcraft or a waterfront at camp, you're managing up to 10 people. It's going to take you longer to make a decision that takes into account what's best for everyone, not just certain individuals. Another con would be leaders doing what staff ask of them. So sometimes as a leader, it may make your job harder in order to do what your staff needs from you, because you now need to go above and beyond in order to accommodate them. Another con is it takes too long to reach and retrain leaders to think like a servant. Many management styles include top down. So the person up top, the manager, is telling their staff what to do. And since a lot of people learn that way, that is also how they end up managing or getting used to being managed. And it takes longer to retrain someone to get in the mindset of thinking about everyone as a whole and doing it for more than just yourself. Another con is a leader can be perceived as weak if there is not a basis of trust with the staff, or the staff think that the leader is weak. They're going to be more apt to, and beyond staff as well, you know, any situation leading, whether you're an SPL or something like that, if the people who you are leading think that you are weak, they may try to take advantage of you. The last con is leaders don't have any formal authority to get things done. So, and that goes back to the trust I just spoke about. If they don't perceive you as a leader, they're going to try to take advantage of the situation. There's a possibility they could, and they may not feel that you have the authority, or they will overstep your authority in order to get what they want. And now I'm going to pass it over to Nolan to discuss some pros of servant leadership.
Okay, so a pro to servant leadership is decisions are made in the best interest of the organization. So in my troop, I have been the SPL and the ASPL, but my favorite job was I was in charge of the new scout patrol. So this was a leadership style I used because my interest was for all these scouts to learn leadership and stuff like that. So this was a big influence on my leadership style. Managers and leaders look at requests from staff through the lens of what is best for the group /activity /goal. So pretty much I'm looking, I know what in that particular situation, I knew what those new scouts needed. I was working with them one-on-one to get them ranked up. Same with even staff. It was my second year on Eagle Badge. So I kind of took a servant leadership role and helped out all my fellow coworkers who are new to my center. And just kind of teaching them for the benefit so that my center runs the best. And we can just for the common good of Yagoo. And so you guys taking these badges have an awesome experience. It helps our staff grow and succeed and helps staff grow as a leader. My coworkers at Eagle Badge, they quickly developed and became awesome Eagle Badge staffers. And then looking back at that new scout patrol, it's so awesome to watch now that I'm out of my troop and I've aged out. When they come to Yagoo and I can watch the leadership skills that I developed alongside of them, and now they're leading my troop and I see them come down and take my classes and they're walking the new kids to their badges. It's awesome to see. And it just sets the tone for the organization. I'm sure we've all had that kind of leader who just commands you and you really don't have any respect for them because they never really get their hands dirty and they're working with you. So it just kind of sets a good tone for whether it be a staff or even a new patrol. Even if you're an SPL, when I was an SPL, I always tried to get my hands dirty, get involved with the different patrols so that I knew what was going on and I can make the best decisions for the people that I'm leading. And then other than that, I'm also an education major. So I've always used this, and this is a good style. Some kids or students don't really learn well if you're just commanding them, we need to get this done. But if you really sit down and be we're going to learn this together because it's going to help all of us, helps me be a better teacher to learn from them and they're learning a skill. So that's another different area I kind of use this from. And just, again, it sets that tone of just a mutual respect relationship. You'll have a much easier time leading people than just demanding them to do stuff and ordering them. And I think we've all been there, and you can respect someone who's servant leadership. So now I'm going to send it back to Max.
Thank you, Nolan, Alexandria, and John. So this is kind of wrapping up at the end of our Silver CY Cracker Barrel. If you have any questions on anything leadership related or with servant leadership in particular, there is a Q&A box at the bottom bar of the Zoom call. If you click on that and you enter your question, we can take a look at it and answer it. So we can give a minute or two for people to submit questions. So we will leave you to it. And when we get questions, we will answer them as best as we can. All right, so we have our first question coming in. The question is, what is a bad time to use servant leadership? So Nolan, would you like to answer that one?
Okay, so a good example I have of a bad time. So I've done a lot of work in schools because this year I'll be graduating from URI with a teaching degree. So I spent a lot of time in classrooms, and I'm also going for special ed. And I've learned a lot that every student or even every scout is different. So you need to use different leadership approaches to that best suit them. So for example, I was in a classroom in Providence, and a majority of the class really responded to me getting on the rug with them, doing their math problems with them, helping them, and just kind of being there with them and kind of doing it with them, motivating them. but there are certain students, I worked with one student in particular who really needed more of a structure, like one-on-one setting, and me like setting goals for him, like we're going to do this, 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 and this. And otherwise he just wouldn't be able to like focus and get it done. Obviously I'm still doing it with him and kind of using aspects of servant leadership, but at the same time, just kind of sitting there and being his friend and like doing it with him doesn't really work for him. So I had to be more of a top down, like, this is what we have to do. These are our goals. This is how we're going to do it. And then in my troop, or just even in general, a bad time to really use it is you kind of need to establish like a mutual trust relationship, because if you use servant leadership too early on, you might have some like issues with staff, scouts, whatever situation you're in, taking advantage of you rather than just like appreciating you. So I would just be careful about that and kind of just like slowly build up that mutual trust relationship. And then eventually it'll just be so much easier to lead, and so much more fun for you as well. Cause I'm sure we've all been in a leadership position that it can be frustrating, and it just makes it so much easier for you. Okay. Back to you, Max.
Thank you, Nolan. So we haven't gotten any other questions yet, but John, I believe that you'd like to add one more thing about the Silver Suit to this Cracker Barrel that we're having.
Yes. So one of the greatest things about these Cracker Barrels is that we're discussing different types of leadership each week. So we've talked about authoritarian. In a previous week, we've talked about. This week, we're talking about servant leadership. Previously, we've also talked about transactional leadership. So we're giving you a bunch of different styles of leadership. So each of these, we've talked about pros and cons. So it might be tough to distinguish when should I be using a different type of leadership to lead in certain situations. And that's a difficult thing to determine. So we're trying to expand your leadership toolbox, adding different skills each week of ways to lead that might be able to help better suit you to whichever situations might occur, so that you can better help lead them. So we've talked about pros and cons this week of servant leadership, and previously we've talked about authoritarian and transactional leadership skills. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the Q&A, or you're able to email us at yaguoffice@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to get back to you if not on this Cracker Barrel. But thank you. I'm going to send it back to Max now.
Thank you, John. We still haven't received any additional questions. We still haven't received any additional questions. So I believe that wraps things up for this week's Tuesday Cracker Barrel. Like John just said, if you do have any questions, please feel free to email us, and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you out there. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the Yagu Network. Stay safe out there.